right, thank you so much for joining me tonight on the Kellie Talley Show. And guys, can you believe we're at our 10th season? And I told you guys to look out for something special, and I got something special for you here tonight. I'm starting our 10th season off with the one-on-one with Kellie Talley. And guess who I got as my first guest? Miss Chirl Girl from V101.9, one of my favorite radio stations. Well, it's my favorite radio station because you sit here.
Thank you. That's a better answer right there. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here, ma'am. You're looking nice.
So are you. Congratulations on 10 years. That's really an achievement.
10 seasons. 10 seasons, yeah, which is, it feels like 10 years. So it's almost the same thing down here at SS 21. But I love you guys. You know, I miss SS. I can't, what they say, it's a poor duck that won't praise his own pond.
Exactly.
That's right. So
and
SS 21, I've been hanging in there with you, and you've been hanging there with me. We appreciate it. But back to you, Miss Chirl Girl. I've been listening to you for years, and I finally connect the face with the voice, and I'm so excited because the face is just as beautiful as the voice is.
Oh, thank you so much.
How long have you been on the air?
Oh my gosh. I've been on the air like 300 years.
Oh,
like literally, like I just suck the blood out of the interns and it keeps me young.
Right.
But in reality, about 17 years.
Wow.
Doing radio a long time.
And what made you decide to get into radio? Was something you wanted to do all along, or it just kind of fell?
It literally fell in my lap. I did the Junior Church Report at First Calvary Baptist Church in Salisbury. I swear to God.
Shout out to church. I used to do the announcements in church.
Church is where people get started. I did the Junior Church Report, and there was a visiting minister who had a radio show.
Okay.
And so after I did the report, he was like, "Who was that little girl?" I was in the 4th grade.
Wow.
And they were like, "That's Chirl." And after after the show, you see I work in radio. After church, he asked my grandmother if I could read the sick and shut-in list on his radio show on WSAT in Salisbury.
Okay.
And my grandmother was like, okay. We told my parents, and we're country. So the whole family went out to the radio station, all 6 of us.
And watch you read
and I read the sick and shut-in list. And then I progressed from there to the prayer list. And then I said, can I read the weather? And this is in 4th grade.
Wow.
And I did it for about 2 years.
So when you were in 4th grade, you're like 8 or 9, right?
I think, I don't know.
Yeah, that's really young. But something saw that light in you.
Something.
Yeah, somebody saw that light in you, and you know.
It took me a long time to start talking, but when I finally did start talking, I really haven't shut up since.
Okay,
so.
Well, that's a good indication that you should be talking for a living. And you know, that happened to Maya Angelou.
Really?
When she was younger, she stopped talking because of something tragic happened to her, and then once she started talking, she couldn't stop, and look at her now.
Well, Lord, please, can I be
company.
Maya Angelou in my next life, please?
You can come in. Anybody that knows me know I love Maya Angelou.
I do too.
I named my kids after her.
Okay.
I mean, it's a real deep, connection. But yeah, so that's a kind of special thing. But I also want to know, like, what advice would you give to someone who wants to get into radio? Because radio is such a vast.
I would say don't focus on radio, first of all. Focus on communication. And first of all, develop a tough skin.
Okay.
Because pretty much anything that you do that's with communications, radio, TV, digital, you are competing.
Right.
And people, their job in life is to tell you no. And you have to understand that's part of what you do. But it only takes one yes. And the biggest thing is saying yes to yourself first. But I would say, first of all, be a great communicator. Do a lot of reading. I read everything. I always have. And you have to be open to the circumstances that are put in front of you. A lot of people only want to do this type of TV show, or they only want to do this type of radio. I got to have hip hop music, or it's got to be country. But if the opportunity puts itself in front of you, have the sense to know to jump on it. Because my first radio job as a child was, doing gospel, but my first adult job was at WSOC 103.7, the #1 country station here in Charlotte. Which is kind of weird because they had no idea. Radio is, they don't know the face, they just hear the voice. So I was on a smaller station, but really kind of freelancing it. They heard me and they called me in the middle of the night saying, hey, come down and we want to talk to you about having a job. I thought it was a prank call because when you're working radio, people think that's a free 800 line. So we get the crazy calls. I'm like, yeah, sure, you work for a country station, you want to hire me. But a friend of mine who worked at another station was like, please stop hanging up on the program director. That's the real dude. And I was like, okay. And so I came down here and, they're like, what? She's black? We had no idea. But I grew up on every type of music because my daddy's from Oklahoma. So he played country. in his car. My grandmother, big band and gospel.
Okay.
My mother was straight Motown. My sister was into like the Rolling Stones. She was a hippie.
The rock
and then I went to Catholic school and a Southern Baptist church. So I heard everything, was exposed to a lot of things, and I think that's one of the biggest things, being exposed to so many things. You know, it made me open to the opportunities that were in front of me. So.
Okay. Well, now I know radio has changed so much, because we used to call you guys disc jockeys. You still DJs, or what do you call yourself now? I'm not a disc
jockey. A disc jockey is someone who actually spins records.
Right.
You know, and I don't spin records. I never have. In fact, I've never actually worked at a radio station where we played albums.
Right.
You know, it was carts, and now, of course, everything's digital. But we're air personalities.
Okay, that's what. What's the proper?
You have to,
you
have to draw it out. Air personality.
But we still call y'all DJs.
Yeah, I answer
you can't
to
get
it.
away from.
If you pay me, honey, I'll be the DJ. Yes.
And when you DJ my party, like, baby, I don't DJ.
Hey, you can fake it till you make it. You know, that's the thing.
Is. I can stand behind the computer and push a button.
With everything being digital now, and if you want to progress in anything, you need to be up on computers.
Exactly.
You got to have your social media game in place. And if you can do that, you can, with your phone, you can be the band. If you have an iPad, not only can you be the band, you can be the film crew, you can be the DJ, you can be all of it. So
everything.
You can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah, and that's a good advice. You hear that? Y'all, you can be in whatever
Be
you want to be.
whatever you want to be.
As long as you have a good phone. Not an Obama phone. It has to be like an iPhone or a smartphone.
The real deal.
Don't try to have an Obama phone. Going around talking about you got a company.
Yeah, like
we'll laugh at you.
You got 10 more minutes to get this all done on your Obama phone.
On Obama phone. Well, you know what? I think I grew up listening to like the Quiet Storm. Like that was like my favorite time of the evening, because just like they played all the slow music. But I really enjoy you during the mid morning, because you kind of keep me going. You hear the stuff that's current.
I'm too hype for the Quiet Storm, because I don't have that middle ground. I pretty much wake up happy. I wake up excited at 4:30, because I did morning radio for a long time, so I still wake up at 4:30.
Oh, wow.
Regardless
That's
of.
gotta be hard.
Well, it's just get on up and do something about it. Do something or go back to sleep. But I wake up happy, and I think that helps. And when people are at work, I worked for years on other jobs to be able to do what I wanted to do, and that's the whole thing with anything you really want. Do a little bit every day towards it. So because you may be in a job that pays your bills and pays your rent and gives you health insurance and working free for the job you want to do, but eventually the things balanced out. And for me, I worked part-time on Power 98, part-time on WBAV. I started doing the Tom Joyner morning show as the Charlotte host, and but filling in. And then they offered me the job full-time, so I would go to the station and do the morning show, and I'd get in my car and drive back to Charlotte and work at First Union, 8 hours, and they were so nice to me, because I'd be so exhausted. At lunchtime, I'd go lay down, and everybody on my team would be like, okay, at lunchtime, go wake her up, get back on my computer. And eventually, I knew I had to turn it around, because they put up this huge billboard of me and Tom Joyner. And my manager called me in the office at the bank's like, is there anything you want to tell us? I'm like, just a little something. But, God has his own plan. I didn't quit. My team got re-engineered, and I ended up walking away with basically a severance package out of banking, still paid for months, going into my other full-time job. So, when you're supposed
God
to
is
be
good, like you say, when he'll put you in a place, and you do what you have to do till you do what you want to do.
Exactly.
And I tell people all the time, don't let life defer your dream, because sometimes you're put in places and situations that's going to propel you forward, and it's teaching you a lesson. Everything is a lesson.
It is.
And once you realize that everything is a lesson, whether you're washing dishes, whether you're serving food, whether you're serving hairstyles like I do now, I mean, everything is a lesson, and they're going to lead you to the place that you need to be. But you have to listen to that inner voice, to that whisper.
Yes.
Like Oprah says, listen to the whisper before
like
it starts
Kelly
screaming.
says, listen to the whisper.
Well, I heard Oprah say it first. I listen to the whisper now, because I don't want to hear the scream.
Right.
I'd rather hear the whisper first.
Oh my gosh, please, let's be smart enough in our lives that we don't have to wait for the scream.
Wait for the scream. Just listen to the whisper. But you know what? I think another fun part of, in my imagination, of being a radio personality would be like the meet and greet and get to meet like different artists. I mean, what was some of your favorite meet and greets? Can you one come to mind?
I've met a lot of people, and it's always interesting.
Right.
Because it's interesting to me who's actually nice and who's a jerk.
Right.
But you know what? There are really way more nice people than there are jerks. I think probably one of the most impressive people I ever met was Garth Brooks.
Okay.
Because, his shows are huge and sold out, and we would take listeners backstage. So we take back a group of like 20 people, and he does this trick, he has a memory trick. So when you take everybody in, he's, says, introduce yourself. So, hey, I'm Chirl, and this is Kelly. Name 20 people. And, and he's like, well, thanks for coming out, da-da-da-da. And when you leave, he says goodbye to each person. He'll be like, bye, Kelly. Bye, Chirl. I'm like, oh,
he knows my name.
So when you leave, we're all like, oh, my God, Garth Brooks remembered me. But it was so cool. And then
that is cool.
I interviewed India Arie.
Okay.
And I am a huge, huge fan of hers.
I am
Love
too.
her music. The year she was nominated for 7 Grammys, and they shut her down and gave everything to Beyonce.
Right.
I took it personally.
I know.
I took it very personally. So when I got the opportunity to interview her, like a year later, I'm like, I've been holding it. I've been carrying it for her. So I couldn't wait. And so I'm like, you were there at the Grammys, you were supposed to sweep them, and you didn't get anything. And you still had to sing. We admire you so much. How did you feel? And we had to go to commercial. And she was so mad at me. And I did not intend to upset her, but she wouldn't talk to me during the commercials. Like, okay, can you do some drops or something for the station? She would not talk to us. She didn't want to take any pictures. When the mic came back on, she jumped right back in. But really, that's been like the only person who shut me down. But pretty much everybody's been very, very nice. I think if you're rich and you're doing what you want to do, why aren't you nice?
Yeah,
why you got a bad attitude?
Yeah.
Why you mad?
If I got to wait on another food stamp hookup, or something like that, but you got money.
You living your dream. You paid.
Yes.
And people are interviewing you, want to know what's going on in your life, what you're interested in, and you upset? So I don't know.
And I guess they say they get tired of answering the same questions. But that's all I had to do, worry about, is answering the same questions.
I know, that's not
that
hard. We've all done harder work.
Yes.
But now, for me personally, I try to do research on anyone that I'm interviewing, and I try to come up with something that they haven't been asked before, because it's so easy to fall into yeah. So I try to engage them, and sometimes it's gone in directions I didn't expect, like kind of with India Arie.
Yeah, as I was getting ready to say,
But they had another artist who basically started talking about wanting to commit suicide, and all his people were really quiet. And they're all like looking like he's telling us stuff we've never heard before.
Right.
And I didn't want to stop him because it seemed like he was having a moment.
He just wanted to let it all out.
Yeah, so I did. But I felt good as an interviewer. Like, yes, he connected.
Yeah, he connected with you.
I tried.
What I wanted to know too, like, because I do a lot of reading too, and a lot of stuff that I shouldn't be reading.
Oh, I read everything.
But you know what? And I just have to be careful what I put into my spirit, because it is so much crap out here.
Well, the thing of it is, I think if anyone took time to write it down, let alone make a magazine about it, I need to read it. So if you are so caught up on Civil War miniatures or guns or whatever it is, bondage, whatever, I need to read it at least one time, because that's the real world.
Yeah,
and I might have to interview you.
Yeah.
And I've interviewed preachers, I've interviewed pimps, I've interviewed musicians, I've interviewed moms. So I have to be ready.
Right.
So always reading something and having a general knowledge of things keeps me kind of prepared. So I'm ready.
And I think when I said that, I mean in terms of like pop news and what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
Like with the Beyonce and Solange. I'm like, every family has, issues.
Crazy.
But in radio, are you guys like, do your programmers like push you guys towards keeping current?
We
with
do.
that kind
You
of
have to
news?
stay current because you're so involved now. It's not just radio anymore. When I'm at work, I have like all my radio stuff, but I'm looking at 3 computers. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm emailing. I'm looking to see what's trending. What are people talking about? Because that's what people are interested in. And if you're like me, and I listen to the radio. When I was on a job that I didn't like, between 10 and 3, I needed something to keep my spirit going and to keep me awake after I'd had SpaghettiOs, carbohydrates, and lunch. So I try to keep it interesting. If that's